Born on the planet Krypton, young Kal-El escaped the cataclysmic destruction of his home world in an experimental rocket designed by his father, coming to Earth, where, thanks to the rays of our yellow sun and Earth's lighter gravity, he gained the spectacular powers which have made him Superman. Stronger than any man alive on Earth, Superman was adopted by the Kents, who taught him to use his indestructibility in an everlasting fight against crime, for truth, justice, and the Terran way. Winter in Metropolis. Some of the city's residences might leave when the air gets chilly and the sun shines a little less brightly, but not so for the premier citizen of this urban center, Superman. Today, the Man of Steel battles a robot the size of a skyscraper. As this mighty mechanical monstrosity is equipped with a lead shield, Superman is unable to see within this colossal foe as it rampages through the city. It lashes out, knocking the mighty superhero back and forcing him to save some bystanders from falling debris. When Superman tries to disrupt the mighty machine's circuitry with his heat vision, the robot fires back with some sort of inertia ray that puts Metropolis's greatest hero in an uncontrolled flight path away from the conflict. The robot then turns to a Star Labs facility, ripping the roof off the building and stealing a small device. By the time Superman frees himself from the inertia ray, the robot is already leaving. He tries to cleverly attack the giant robot from underground, but it has some sort of gravity field emitting from below that incredibly crushes Superman with a force 10 times greater than that of Krypton's gravity. Superman realizes this wasn't an attack, but rather a byproduct of the means to keep a machine this big balanced. He is able to use this information against the robot, shoving it deep underground, but the robot just launches its head off in response. Superman chases after it, but it explodes around him. The head was just a decoy, and the robot's pilot, the infamous villain known as Lex Luthor, escapes, his heist successful, and his role in the crime unknown by Superman. Annoyed, but unable to do anything else, Clark Kent returns to work at the Daily Planet. There he learns the robot stole a vital piece of hardware from Star Labs that can be used to control the direction of satellites orbiting Earth. His boss, Mr. Edge, harshly reprimands Clark for not covering this story himself, but this does give the man an idea. Donning his Superman outfit once more, he follows the robot's trail back to its point of origin, and comes across a mobile undersea lab hiding out in Metropolis Bay. A claw extends out of this mysterious facility, pulling Superman in, where Lex Luthor greets his old friend. Though the Man of Steel attempts to confront his arch-nemesis, Luthor is able to deploy high-powered lasers that keep Superman at bay. Kal-El inadvertently gets himself blasted in the face by one of these lasers, and realizes it must use the same light energy as that emitted by a red sun. Briefly weakened and blinded by this attack, Superman is stunned, but does manage to accidentally destroy Luthor's computer that controls the laser. Lex immediately deduces he no longer has a chance of actually winning this fight, so he quickly sends off the special circuit he stole from Star Labs to another facility. As Luthor predicted, Superman arrests Lex and the mad scientist is sent to prison. That evening, Superman joins his colleagues at the Daily Planet as they are all ready to head to New York City for a World News Conference. While still in high school, a young Peter Parker was bitten by a radioactive spider at a science exhibition. Instead of dying, he soon found himself possessing uncanny abilities, the proportionate strength of a spider, a knack for climbing walls, all of which made him a very friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. With the death of his Uncle Ben, a death Peter feels he could have prevented, Spidey turned his talents to fighting crime. He had designed a costume with one-way eye holes, a handy-dandy web shooter, which carried his own specially designed web formula, and a special belt pack containing all sorts of spider goodies. Now he too battles evil as Spider-Man. Winter in Manhattan. Like Metropolis, Manhattan has a relatively snow-free winter, but that hasn't stopped both cities from suffering from a bitter cold in the air. And like Metropolis, another superhero in New York City is preparing a battle of his own. Spider-Man observes a number of crooks robbing the Metropolitan Museum. Peter Parker is oddly pleased to see this, as his boss, Jonah Jameson, has been demanding some fresh new photos for the news. Now that he finally has a free moment to look, he finds the news coming straight to him. Delighted, Spider-Man sets up his camera and attacks the crooks in costume, quickly dispatching them. However, the fight turns difficult when the mastermind behind the heist appears on the scene, Dr. Octopus. The villain reveals the Flying Octopus, a new vehicle that marks the start of a brand new era of crime for Octavius. The superhero and supervillain trade blows, but the crew of the Flying Octopus are able to hit Spider-Man in the back of the head during the battle. With Spider-Man out cold, Octopus and his goons are able to escape with the stolen goods, while our hero wakes up to a confrontation with the police, who attack the superhero on sight and nearly shoot him dead. Peter is able to escape in spite of running out of web fluid and even retrieve his camera. The next day, Jonah Jameson is delighted by Peter's photographs, even promising to pay the young man a bonus for his incredible work capturing a fight between Spider-Man and Dr. Octopus. And on Jonah's orders, they are rushed straight to print on the newspaper. When the papers come out, Jameson is enraged to see that even the best picture is completely off-center. Peter realizes too late that the automatic camera must have been off slightly, but Jonah is so angry about this, he refuses to hear any sort of explanation and kicks Peter out of his office. Parker runs into Mary J. Watson as he leaves, and Peter explains what happened. He is exasperated at how things seem to always go wrong in his life. Suddenly, his spider sense starts tingling and Peter rushes off, putting on his Spider-Man outfit. He goes to investigate a blimp that seems to be the source of the trouble he sensed earlier, only to remember that he is still completely out of web fluid and neglected to get any more. As a result, he crashes straight into a blimp, discovering Dr. Octopus hidden within. Hero and villain battle once more as the blimp crashes into the Central Park reservoir around them. Spider-Man is able to knock Otto out during this, and he leaves the man to be arrested by the police. Peter goes off to find Mary Jane, but isn't able to reunite with her until the next morning, where they both plan on going to the World News Conference together. Out west in New Mexico, as both men await trial, Otto, Octavius, and Lex Luthor arrive at the Federal Maximum X Security Penitentiary No. 1, what is considered the most escape-proof prison in the world. These two men have heard of one another and quickly see they have much in common. Lex seems confident that he will be free by tomorrow, so he asks if Otto would be interested in working together at that point. Octavius is bemused at this claim and agrees to said partnership, openly stating he doesn't believe either man can escape this place. Shockingly though, Luthor is able to immediately engineer an escape. He assembles a device with various parts he managed to smuggle into prison on his person. Lex is quickly able to put the guards to sleep with it, remotely activate Octavius's mechanical arms, and using those, the villains are free in mere moments. Back in New York City, the World News Conference begins. Staff from both the Daily Planet and the Daily Bugle arrive at the same time. There, Jameson quickly begins berating Peter over yesterday's events. However, thanks to MJ's earlier encouragement, Peter is able to actually stand up for himself, firmly stating he will not be treated abusively if they're going to continue working together. He storms off and nearly leaves the conference entirely, but MJ is able to get him to calm down, stay, and enjoy the day with her. Not far from this, Lois Lane and Clark Kent are enjoying the show already. They observe ComLab 1, the world's first orbital communications laboratory, which Clark finds just amazing. He's curious about what the lab will be used for, as NASA has kept its purpose secret for years. Clark then happens to overhear that his boss is intending to replace him with a better-known journalist. When he confronts Mr. Edge with this news, his employer rudely confirms that is the case, and though it appears to be only temporary, it's clear that Clark's job is at risk. Lois sees this and watches as Clark accepts this news without protest, and in frustration she storms off. She wishes Clark would be more assertive and willing to stand up for himself, like Superman. As she walks away, she sees an opportunity to take a close-up picture of the ComLab, and climbs up a ladder to do so. However, Lane nearly falls, only saved at last moment by Peter Parker, who has also come to the ladder to take pictures of the comm lab. Lois recognizes Peter and knows him for his photography, at which point he then recognizes the famous reporter. Suddenly, Superman flies up and blasts Lois Lane and Mary Jane with his eye-beams. Both women disappear, and the Man of Steel flies away, leaving both Peter Parker and Clark Kent stunned as they watch this unfold in front of them. Peter runs off to change into his Spider-Man costume, only to find Superman waiting for him. The Man of Steel, aware that Spider-Man has a spotty reputation with the police and public, confronts Peter and demands to know what happened to Lois and MJ, thinking that Spider-Man teamed up with the fake Superman and staged the kidnapping. Peter responds with a bewildered hostility, making Superman instantly second-guess his assumptions about this so-called menace. Watching this all happen is Dr. Octopus and Lex Luthor, delighted to see their plan working even better than they had expected. Lex had disguised himself as Superman to start this fight by kidnapping Lois and MJ, but they hadn't expected Superman to show up until much later. Taking advantage of the lucky opportunity provided to them, Lex activates a device that greatly powers up Spider-Man with a unique radiation based on red sun energy. Though a temporary alteration to Spider-Man, and only one that works so much in scaling to Superman's power, it is enough to make things very interesting for the two superheroes. Superman tries to explain to Spider-Man that this may all be a misunderstanding, but Spider-Man, frustrated and souped up on weird energies, is able to land a frighteningly powerful blow on the hero before he can hear his opponent out. Kal-El is shocked at the power of this attack and nearly destroys a statue when he is knocked into it. Now angry and frustrated, he charges at Spider-Man, but with the Webhead's newly enhanced powers, he's able to toss around Superman like he were a normal human. Peter is shocked at all of this, as he is all too familiar with the reputation of Superman and his legendary strength, but has never actually encountered the Man of Steel himself before, so just begins to assume that legendary strength was an exaggerated rumor. Peter decides that Superman's reputation must just be overrated and continues to press the attack in spite of Superman's protests. He knocks Superman around enough that Kal begins to get frustrated and loses himself to the fight for just a moment. As a result, Superman attempts to punch Spider-Man with his full strength. At last minute, the Kryptonian comes to his senses and is able to pull back his punch just enough that it doesn't connect and kill Spider-Man. But it is too late to stop the shockwave behind the blow. Spider-Man is hit with this wave of energy that has the equivalent force of a hurricane. He is blasted straight through a building, though thanks to his powers is able to quickly recover and begins cartwheeling towards Superman. However, just before Peter makes contact, the radiation Spider-Man was dosed with wears off, and he bounces harmlessly off the Man of Steel. Spider-Man tries to punch Superman with a flurry of blows, but all that does is mangle a young man's own fists. Clearly outmatched, Spider-Man finally stands down and agrees to talk. Realizing they've been tricked and played against each other, the two superheroes shake hands and agree to work as partners and get to the bottom of this. Using his powers, Superman is able to follow a trail of energy from the conference center to an old Penn Central railroad yard. Spider-Man sneaks in only to be waylaid by a number of traps, while Superman eventually gets impatient with that plan and breaks into the warehouse with brute force. They find Lex and Otto waiting for the two inside, and the villains confirm they are working together and kidnapped MJ and Lois as bait for the two superheroes. They then disappear, revealing the villains were actually holographic projections. Before Spider-Man and Superman can investigate further, Spider-Man accidentally triggers a booby trap, destroying all computer equipment here. Peter thinks he just made any attempt to trace the villains down impossible and despairs at his blunder. However, Superman shows him that with his photographic memory, enhanced vision, and super speed, he is able to restore and repair the computer in the blink of an eye. The two are able to trace the location where the projector was being broadcast from, and are surprised to get the coordinates to Mount Kilimanjaro in Africa. The heroes race off, with Spider-Man using skis made out of webbing to ride behind Superman, and they come across some villagers near the mountain. One of them, named Uchaka, studied in London and knows all about Superman, so he agrees to help the two superheroes with anything they might need. The friendly man is able to guide the two heroes to a place in the mountain where one of the villagers' warriors went missing recently. They find the missing warrior powered up by red sun radiation, and he proves a danger to even Superman. Luckily, Kal-El had analyzed Peter's web fluid earlier using his supervision and determined it had a very unique chemistry. When combined with Superman's heat vision, the webbing turns into an almost steel-like substance. Working together, Superman and Spider-Man are able to subdue this empowered warrior, and the two superheroes are then able to discover a hidden lair nearby. Inside, they find an empty rocket silo and realize the villains have gone to space. Lex takes Dr. Octavius to the satellite headquarters of the Injustice Gang, where the two are holding MJ and Lois. Luthor explains that this satellite was home to a group of villains who were defeated several months ago, and he took over their now abandoned satellite. He goes on to explain he will be using the programming circuit he stole from Star Labs to blackmail the entire world by seizing control over the newly launched Confab facility and altering it so that it will become a high-powered orbital laser station completely under his control. Back in the city, Jameson and Edge meet at a bar as ComLab launches off into space. They ruminate over their respective employees, Peter Parker and Clark Kent. Both are very talented, but completely unreliable, as the two men were completely absent while a big story was unfolding all around them at the World News Conference. Meanwhile, in space, and God do I love saying that phrase, Luthor fires off the ComLab laser as Superman and Spider-Man, the latter of whom is piloting a borrowed experimental space shuttle, arrive on the scene. Superman observes the laser causing a chain reaction within Earth's atmosphere, creating a hurricane that could cause unprecedented damage to the entire planet's environment. Before they can react, however, both heroes are knocked out by a special sound wave produced by Luthor and his space laser. They wake up on the Injustice satellite and are greeted by Luthor and Octavius, who explain they will demand billions of dollars in cash from the US government, or they will use the laser to destroy America with the storm they've created. The two superheroes are able to recover faster than Luthor anticipated, so they suddenly strike out. Lex manages to even the odds a bit by removing gravity, throwing Spider-Man off balance, while Otto keeps Superman at a distance with his mechanical arms, while Kal-El is still groggy from being knocked out earlier. The villains are able to use this situation to knock Superman and Spider-Man into each other, and the two heroes realize they're going to have to work as a team better if they want to defeat these clever foes. Using the power of teamwork, they are able to break Otto's glasses, buying the two some much-needed time. They see a tsunami forming on Earth, racing towards North America's east coast, so Superman races off to stop it, while Spider-Man squares off against Lex Luthor and Otto Octavius. Luthor reveals that Superman is right. He has no intention of actually being able to stop these storms, and is willing to let them get completely out of control and wipe out the whole planet just to get revenge on Superman. Otto realizes his partner in crime is completely insane, so he destroys Lex's control computer. The laser runs off, but the damage is already done. Spider-Man struggles to hold Luthor back as he tries to kill Octavius for this betrayal, while on Earth, Superman rushes to stop the tidal wave. Though Superman is still dizzy from the sound waves earlier, he is able to create a sound wave of his own by flying at such incredible speeds. The tsunami is pushed back, and the tidal wave is completely negated. Meanwhile, Spider-Man finally manages to knock out Lex Luthor. With Lois and MJ saved, the heroes each take the villains off to be imprisoned, while they shake hands and hope to one day meet again. Peter remarks that it's not every day that two superheroes go around making history, and Superman says that his new friend couldn't be more right about that. Later, both are independently happy to have recorded footage of them working together, as it delights their bosses. Jonah and Peter agree to bury the hatchet, while Mr. Edge promises Clark his job is safe. In a happy mood, Peter, MJ, Clark, and Lois all walk off into the sunset, knowing that peace reigns on Earth and justice remains triumphant. At least for tonight.